of life through the works of the Chinese writer Xuemo. For those who are joining us for the first time, Xuemo is a contemporary Chinese writer, cultural scholar, and a spiritual thinker whose works have been translated into over 28 languages around the world. And his writings explore human nature, suffering, consciousness, spirituality, traditional wisdom, and the relationship between the inner world and modern life. Many readers discover in his books not only philosophy, but also practical wisdom for facing real life. And the section we are entering today belongs to the theme correctly understanding the world and the self. When people hear words like illness, suffering, and aging, death, many instinctively feel fear or resistance. But Mr. Xuemo reminds us that true spiritual growth does not happen when life is easy. Very often, awakening begins when life forces us to confront impermanently, directly. In this sharing, we will talk about illness, fear, attachment, suffering, and the meaning of life. But more importantly, we will explore a deep question: how can a human being remain peaceful and awake, even in the face of uncertainty? And Xuemo says that the world itself is a training ground for the heart. Everything we encounter can become part of our cultivation. When people speak about spiritual practice, many imagine escaping from life, avoiding suffering, or finding permanent peace. Permanent peace. But true wisdom is not about escaping reality. True wisdom to learning how to face reality completely. And today I will share a passage or the content from one of Xuemo's book, Trials in the Mortal World, under the theme Correctly Understanding the World and the Self. And the topic we are talking about today is accept everything calmly. And this topic is not only about illness, pain, or death. It is about how human beings face uncertainty itself. Many people become confident when life is smooth, but collapse when suffering arrives. Why? Because we are often trained to pursue comfort, but not trained to understand life. And Xuemo reminds us that the world itself is a training ground for the heart and mind. Everything we encounter, success, failure, illness, relationships, gain, and loss, can become part of our awakening. Hi, Eva. Hello. Welcome. Our old friend here who has read 4 of Xuemo's works, and she's going to order the 5th book. Maybe you will choose from the Desert Trilogy, right? And thank you for your support again. Yeah, thank you. So everything we encounter can become part of our awakening, especially illness. And most people fear illness because illness forces us to confront impermanent directly. But sometimes suffering changes a person more deeply than comfort ever could. A serious ill can suddenly make a proud person humble, and it can make a greedy person realize that many desires are meaningless. It can even awaken compassion and wisdom that never appeared before. This does not mean suffering in itself is beautiful. It means that human beings still have the ability to awaken within suffering. Right? And in this sharing, Xuemo also talks about the Buddhism concept, the formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. Hi, Corey. Hello, welcome. Corey, which is the first book are you going to read from Xuemo's works? Okay, anyone who have heard about the concept about the Buddhism, that it is called formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. Everything in this universe appears, exists for a while, changes, and eventually disappears, right? And not only our bodies, but even civilizations and worlds follow this law. When we truly understand this, we may start fighting reality so aggressively. And perhaps we can begin to face life with greater calmness and clarity. So today, let's quietly enter this theme together, accept everything calmly. So to truly cultivate our oneself is to practice within daily life, beginning with every word, every action, and even every single thought. It is a kind of wisdom of living, wisdom that anyone can who wishes to refine their character, regardless of whether they have religious beliefs, can put into practice. If people can practice according to what is written in Xuemo's books and face life and everything within it with wisdom, they will surely become individuals with a more complete character, able to live in better harmony with themselves, with others, and with nature. Xuemo once said that we should treat the world as a tool for training the mind and fully accept every gift that destiny gives us. Hi, Eva, 你好. Hello. So this applies when facing wealth and honor, and it also applies when facing pain and illness. That is why when the elder of Liangzhou visited the sick, he would always comfort them by saying, when one eats the 5 grains, one will inevitably suffer from many illness. In Chinese, it is called 吃五谷生百病. So when we are comforting uh, the patients, we will say, when one eats the 5 grains, one will inevitably suffer from many illness. That is why, and why we mention the elder of Liangzhou, because and perhaps many international readers may not immediately understand what Liangzhou is. Xuemo is known as a Western Chinese writer, and he was born in Liangzhou, in Gansu province in northwestern China. And Liangzhou is an ancient Silk Road region filled with desert culture, folk traditions, Buddhism, Taoism, and centuries of hardship and resilience. The village where Xuemo grew up still carries the atmosphere that appears throughout many of his books. And today, that place has gradually become part of what people know as Xuemo Academy. No, that place, this place here, where I am staying, the Xuemo Academy. Hi, Eva. Eva's message, why didn't Wendy come yesterday? She comes. She did the live stream. Maybe you missed her time. Maybe. But thank you for your support and thank you for your care. Everyone like Wendy, right? Yeah. So when Xuemo speaks about the elder of Liangzhou, he is not speaking as an outsider observing life from a distance. He is speaking from the soil that raised him, from real people he personally witnessed through his life. Many stories about illness, suffering, life, and death in his writings are connected to the realities of Western rural China. That is also why his reflections often feel very grounded and deeply human. So the traditional saying, when one eats the 5 grains, one will inevitably suffer from many illnesses. It carries not only philosophy but also the lived wisdom of generations of ordinary people. This reflects a relationship of cause and effect, and it also points to the inevitability of illness. In truth, this is indeed the case. Throughout a person's life, illness is unavoidable, and everyone will become sick several times. Especially today, our living environment is facing unprecedented pollution, and many foods are produced unnaturally fast. Much of the meat contains hormones, and many vegetables are sprayed with excessive pesticides. The probability of getting sick is far greater than it was for people in ancient times. Even our ancient ancestors said, when one eats the 5 grains, one will suffer from many illnesses. So, how much more true is this for modern people like us? And perhaps today, wow, Eva, thank you for your support. You ordered Dance Hunters. Thank you. And let me know. You can share with me every day when through your reading process and share with me the content and your feeling. So glad to hear that. And thank you for your support. I will share this good news to my team. Thank you, Eva. So our ancestors said, when one eats the 5 grains, one will suffer from many illnesses. And our ancestors, they don't have so many chemistry pollution. All they eat are very natural, and even they say that we will suffer from many illnesses. So how much more true is this for modern people? And perhaps it is no longer merely 100 illnesses, but 1,000 illnesses or 10,000 illnesses. Even diseases today are things our ancestors have never even heard of. So if one is unfortunate enough to become ill, what should one do? Xuemo said that a person's dignity is revealed in how they face suffering, such as illness, pain, life, and death. And this is indeed true. Different people respond to illness in very different ways. Some complain against heaven and blame everyone around them as though the whole world has wronged them, right? And some fall into self-pity, believing themselves to be miserable, remaining gloomy day after day. Some people even carry this attitude of self-pity without being sick at all. Others simply give up on themselves, abandoning every chance to save themselves and drifting helpless from one form of suffering into another. Therefore, one must understand that everything is impermanent. Not only the physical body, but even the world and this universe are impermanent. All things are subject to the cycle of formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. Okay, again, very important, the key core, the core. All things are subject to the cycle of formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. Everything arises and passes away according to causes and conditions. Whether it is the world of emotions or the material world, nothing can escape this law. Formation, existence, decay, and emptiness are the destined trajectory of all conditioned phenomena. What does formation, existence, decay, and emptiness mean? Hi, unknown 12. Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming by. Please subscribe to our channel. So I'm going to explain the concept. Here we are mainly about the spiritual wisdom and human warmth found in the works by the Chinese writer Mr. Xuemo. So welcome, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Just now we are talking about the formation, existence, decay, and emptiness, the four concepts from the Buddhism. So formation means, thank you for your subscription, thank you for your support. So I will explain it so that you will know. Hope these ideas and concepts will bring you some insights and make a little change in your life. So formation, oh, you get it, thank you. So formation means that causes and conditions come together, allowing something to come into being. For example, our parents came together and thus we were born, right? And existence means that the causes and conditions composing a thing have not yet dispersed, so the thing continues to exist. For instance, we grow day by day and gradually enter adulthood. And this stage appears relatively stable, but it is actually very brief because causes and conditions are constantly changing. And decay means that the causes and conditions begin to disperse and the original combination is no longer stable. For example, someone gradually grow old and move day by day toward death, just as strength weakens or an apple slowly rots. And emptiness refers to the final dissolution of things. For example, death arrives and I leave this world. Thus, formation, existence, decay, and emptiness together make up the course of a human life. What seems to be a solid and lasting life is actually an illusion. This is the truth of life. Hi, Congruous. Hola, welcome. Please subscribe to our channel. So we are talking about the Buddhism concept, formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. And these four concepts together make up the course of a human life. What seems to be a solid and a lasting life is actually an illusion. This is the truth of life. And not only individuals' lives follow this pattern, the entire universe does as well. This is the shared destiny of all things, and also their deepest truth. If we truly understand this, our mindset will fundamentally change, and we will no longer fall into despair or discouragement. The above is the ultimate attitude toward illness and death. It can fundamentally dissolve humanity's fear when facing sickness and mortality. Beyond this, countless people throughout history have also set examples for us. One example is the Chinese writer Shi Tieshen. On 12, thank you for your support. So there is a Chinese writer, Shi Tieshen. When he was young, he became paralyzed and later developed kidney failure that required regular dialysis. Still later, he also suffered a stroke. His entire life was almost a lifelong struggle against illness. He once joked that his primary perfection was being sick, while writing was only his side occupation. And in the article, My Temple of Earth, he wrote about how losing the use of his legs at the age when he was most proud, most defiant, and full of vitality brought him immense suffering. And so he began to contemplate the meaning of life. Eventually, he came to understand that death is a festival destined to arrive. With this realization, he regained his spirit and poured his reflections on life into his writing. As a result, he became one of the most important contemporary writers in China. Although his life was not especially long, his works granted him a kind of enduring life beyond death. And more importantly, his attitude toward illness offers us profound inspiration and influence. It reminds us that when illness arrives, there is still another way to live. Yes, right. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Yes, and please share our channel to your social community online. Thank you so much. And there is another point that is equally important. After becoming ill, one must adjust one's mindset in time and face the illness positively. When you confront illness with a heart of complete acceptance, there may pass a very different outcome. Doctors all know that even when people suffer from the same disease, their attitudes can be completely different. And when the attitude is different, the result is often different as well. Even in the case of cancer. In the past, we all believed that cancer was incurable. But in reality, many positive and optimistic people have recovered from it. In a remote mountain area far from the city of Wuwei, Wuwei is also where Xuemo's hometown, the Wuwei city, Liangzhou city, and Wuwei is in Liangzhou, yeah. There lived an old man who had always been strong and healthy, but for a period of time he often felt unwell. So his children took him to the hospital for an examination. When he walked into the hospital, he strode forward energetically and full of confidence. But when the test result came out, he was diagnosed with cancer, and the news crushed him on the spot. His children hired a vehicle and carried him home for a stretcher. After returning home, he became depressed and despondent. He could neither eat nor sleep well. By the time he returned for another examination, he had become as thin as a critically ill patient. Yet the second examination revealed that the original diagnosis had been mistaken. The moment he heard this, he leaped out of the hospital bed. He strode energetically out of the hospital and even went to the street to eat 2 large bowls of beef noodles. This shows just how greatly the mind can influence the body. Yeah. There are many stories like this. Even it happened to my grandmother. her whole life is very healthy. He go up to the mountain to work every day. Till someday she took the examination in the hospital, and it says she got some illness, and the test come out, and she was so worried. And after that, I don't think she passed away, not lived for a very long time. So the attitude also determines the result. Hi, Mason. Hello, welcome. Today's topic is accept everything in your life. Acceptance. So if you have time, you can stay for a while. So when Master Xi Ying learned that she had cancer and was told she only had 3 or 4 months left to live, she became deeply frightened. Fortunately, her chronic conditions were very good, and she immediately called Xuemo. Yes, today's topic is accept everything in life. Hi, Lord. Oakley Mountains. Hi, Lord. Where is it? You are from Oakley Mountains, and where does the Oakley Mountain located? Share with me. Oh, some audio problem. Sorry for that, but you can still hear me clearly. Yes, okay, that's good. So, and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Good blessing from China. So Xin's karmic conditions were very good, and she immediately called Xuemo when she knew she had cancer, and she was told only had 3 or 4 months left. Yay. So over the phone, Xuemo guided her in understanding the nature of mind. At the very moment she recognized the nature of mind, and her suffering and fear were instantly dissolved. Oh, here, Xuemo, we mentioned Master Xing, who was one of Xuemo's students and also an important editor of many of Xuemo's works. Before her spiritual transformation, she worked in the world of fashion media and publishing. Her life was once very modern, busy, and outwardly successful, but after facing serious illness and encountering Xuemo's teachings on the nature of the mind, her understanding of life gradually changed completely. Later, while fighting cancer, she devoted much of her remaining energy to editing books, publishing magazines, and supporting cultural and spiritual work that could benefit others. And all these are the Xuemo's works. And Xuemo uses her story not only to talk about illness itself, but to show how suffering can sometimes awaken a deep meaning of life. For many people, illness feels like the end of life, but for some people, illness unexpectedly becomes the beginning of awakening. And this is one of the important things running through Xuemo's works. So maybe illness will become the beginning of awakening. And so it is the book Eternal Love is also about this thing. Afterward, with a resilience difficult for ordinary people to imagine, she fought against the illness while also accomplishing many things for the benefit of others. For example, she compiled 2 books and 3 magazines, achieving the ultimate elevation of her life. If she had never become ill, would she have experienced such a transformation? It's hard to say. Perhaps she would have continued working as the editor-in-chief of fashion magazines, living a glamorous and comfortable middle-class life. Like most people, she might have believed she would naturally live to 80 or 90 years old. She might never have reflected deeply on the meaning and value of life. Nor would she have let go of her comfortable lifestyle and everything she possessed in order to choose a life that appeared lonely and solitary, yet deeply meaningful. Therefore, one's understanding and the realization regarding illness can sometimes become the greatest gain of an entire lifetime. And I have seen many people like this before illness and after illness. They became completely different people. Some people were originally very arrogant, but after becoming ill, their arrogance disappeared completely. Some were once extremely greedy, but after illness, they realized that the things they had been craving were ultimately meaningless, and so their greed faded away. Others were once harsh and bitter, but after becoming ill and suddenly recognizing the fragility of life, they became gentle and compassionate. Therefore, when looking at anything in life, one must understand that everything has two sides. Honestly, yeah, thank you for your um, message, Mason. Thank you. I become arrogant while it was easy. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. So when looking at anything in life, one must understand that everything has two sides. As the old saying goes, there is a old saying in China, 福兮祸兮福所倚，福兮祸所伏. Within misfortune lies the seed of blessing, and within blessing hides the seeds of misfortune. The same principle applies when facing illness. Since one has already become ill, one should face it calmly and openly. And if a person can truly use illness as a way to understand life and to perceive the truth of the world, then sickness may transform from a painful burden into a condition that supports the search for truth and the discovery of truth. And in that case, the sufferer will no longer feel quite so much pain. And Xuemo once traveled to Beijing to interview a specialist in traditional Chinese medicine. And at that time, there happened to be a very successful businessman receiving treatment there as well. He had cancer, and it was said that at the beginning, his condition had been very serious. Later, however, his illness gradually came under control through treatment. He told us that before becoming ill, he never cared about the feelings of others. He believed that as long as he himself was happy and successful, nothing else matters. He would even use underhanded methods to crush his competitors, caring only about maximizing his own benefit. At the time, although he occasionally sensed that he had become cool and ruthless, he justified it by believing that businessmen cannot survive without cunning. But after learning that he was seriously ill and his life could disappear at any moment, half of his hair turned white overnight from sorrow. And for the first time, he began seriously reflecting on the way he had lived before. And only then did he realize that he had done many wrong things. So he decided to truly repent through action and make amends where he could. Using his own money, he established a charitable foundation to help others. He also rented a large house and created something similar to support club for patients. There are many people suffering from illness and pain could gather together to talk, drink tea, and exercise. And it was precisely through serving others that he finally discovered the true value and meaning of life. And in Guangdong, there was also a businessman whose life was transformed by illness. Let me share another story. He developed kidney failure and later underwent a kidney transplant. Because of that illness, he came to see many things differently and let go of many attachments. He also began reflecting on the value of life and wanted to do something meaningful within the limited time he had. So he purchased a dialysis machine and made it available to patients at almost no profit. His purpose was to help those who could not afford dialysis treatments. After all, dialysis in hospitals is extremely expensive, while he charged only the basic operating cost for each treatment. And there are many similar examples. So illness creates a sense of pressure and urgency in people. And when you feel that urgency, when you sense that death may be standing beside you and that your life could disappear at any moment, you may begin to truly reflect on your life. And through that reflection, you may change the direction of your life and begin doing things that genuinely benefit others. So, in a certain sense, illness is not necessarily a bad thing. Buddhism teaches that people should not endlessly pursue pleasure because excessive pleasure allows the five poisons to grow stronger. Some wise people have also said that suffering can elevate a person, while excessive pleasure easily stimulates desire and leads people toward degeneration. For this reason, they do not pursue fame, wealth, or positions of power. Take Zhuangzi, for example. Anyone know Zhuangzi in China? So he would rather live as a cheerful old man, wearing straw sandals to sell, than hold high office in the royal court. Because he understood that once a person chooses that kind of official life, they must obey its rules, become bound by them, and lose their original freedom. This is both an attitude toward life and the standard of making choices, and you may reflect upon it for yourself. Yeah, Mason's message, that is interesting. People start to live when they know they have less time on earth. Yeah. And I think that is also why the masters or the great men in the world, they why they are what make them so great and famous, because they treasure time much more than us, than the ordinary person. And you like Steve Jobs, I just she will, he will take the every day. He reminds himself that if tomorrow is the last day of his life, then what he will be doing today. And so does Xuemo. Xuemo used a metaphor that he take the death as a sharp sword on his head, and on his head, reminding him to. So he wake up 3 a.m. in the morning every day. He every day he only speaks like 3 to 4 hours, and all his the awakening time he is writing, cultivating, and reading. Nothing else. Only 3 things. And for decades and decades of his time. That's why he can write over 80 titles that no other authors can do that like him. Yeah. Hi, Mason. That is a beautiful approach and interest. Thank you. Kevin, 3 a.m. So what's his sleeping time? Maybe from, it is a rough time. I cannot say maybe sometimes he wake up at 3:30. Okay, whatever it is, but he only sleeps for 3 or 4 hours every day from a very young age, and in his youth, when he's doing the self-cultivating, he had a 20 years retreat alone. 20 years retreat alone. Then the most of his time used is doing the meditation, sitting there doing the meditation, and when he's not doing the meditation, he will keep writing, and read a lot. We have a library here and collecting books. So the only 3 things left in his life is spiritual practice, writing, and reading. So in his early age, he had a 20 years retreat, or you can say seclusion. And after that, in those years, the spiritual practicing time takes the most. And after his enlightenment, then writing, he spent most of his time writing, because he don't need to do anything. He just need to keep that status in his lifetime. So writing takes the most of his time. Hi, Kevin. Actually, Xuemo is very healthy, healthier than much more healthier than the others that may be at the same age as him. Amazing. Just you can listen to your body, which is ever comfortable for you, or you can arrange your daily life not yet according to your life goal. Yes. And hi, Kevin. What is noise? Some people don't need much sleep and get very old, but surely remarkable. Okay, so you can listen to your own body. Okay, and also you can follow your soul. Follow your soul. Yeah. You can decide your lifestyle. Yeah. And you can, which is more important in your life. Okay, so you can reflect upon it for yourself. In short, the word itself is a tool for training and refining the mind. What do you think? The word itself is a tool for training and refining the mind. And a true practitioner can examine their cultivation through every circumstances, especially through serious illness and the threat of death. Ordinarily, you may speak eloquently and endlessly, believing that your cultivation is already very good. But when faced with a serious illness, can you still maintain an ordinary and balanced mind? Can you remain unmoved and steady within? when facing illness, you can truly master your own mind, remaining as stable as a mountain while and with a great smile, gentle smile, and heart as calm as still water, calmly accepting whatever is about to come, maintaining a truly healthy state of mind, then you are a genuine practitioner. And this is the true meaning of spiritual practice. Moreover, a healthy and correct state of mind is beneficial to physical health. Many illnesses are actually closely connected to one's psychological state. For example, excessive anger harms the liver, deep hatred harms the heart, resentment harms the spleen, anxiety harms the lungs, and constant worry harms the kidneys. If you sincerely study the Buddhist scriptures and genuinely practice the way of life encouraged by Buddhist culture, you may avoid many illnesses in the future. Therefore, when illness arrives, do not complain about the unfairness of fate. You must understand that everything is impermanent. Face everything calmly and regard every circumstance as a training ground for refining yourself. And perhaps the most difficult thing in life is not suffering itself, but our resistance to suffering. And many times, what truly exhausts us is not the event, but the fear, anger, and attachment created in the mind. Xuemo reminds us that everything in this world is impermanent. Health changes, relationship changes, fortunes change. Even our bodies and identities are constantly changing. But perhaps true inner strength begins the moment we stop fighting reality and begin understanding it. This does not mean becoming passive. It means learning how to remain awake and peaceful within uncertainty. Sometimes illness changes a person. Sometimes suffering awakens compassion. And sometimes the moments we fear most become the doorway to a completely different understanding of life. So perhaps the most important question is not why is this happening to me, but instead, what is life trying to teach me through this experience? So, if this conversation brought you reflection or peace, feel free to share it with others who may need it. And if you would like to continue exploring Xuemo's works and wisdom, you can find more through our channel and books. And hope all of us may learn to face life with a calmer heart and clearer mind. And before we end the sharing, I would also to briefly introduce Xuemo once again for friends who may be new to this channel. Xuemo is a contemporary Chinese writer, cultural scholar, and spiritual thinker from Liangzhou in Western China. His works explore literature, human nature, consciousness, spirituality, traditional wisdom, and the relationship between the inner world and modern life. Over the years, many of his works have been translated into different languages and read by readers around the world. Some readers come to Xuemo through literature, some come through philosophy or spirituality. And some people encounter Xuemo's works during difficult times in life. But very often, what they discover is not simply knowledge. What they discover is another way of understanding life. So if today's sharing resonates with you, you can continue exploring Xuemo's works through Amazon and our official online store, shop.xuemo.com. And many of Xuemo's English books are available internationally on Amazon and through our official store, shop.xuemo.com. You can also find not only books, all the 80 titles by Xuemo, but many cultural products connected to daily mindfulness and inner cultivation. For example, journals, tea-related products, cultural gifts, meditation-inspired items, and other creations that carry a quiet spirit of everyday practice. Because true cultivation is not separate from ordinary life. Sometimes even the simplest daily object can remind us to return to stillness and awareness. If you would like to support this cultural work, sharing the live stream, subscribing to the channel, or simply recommending a book to someone who needs it are all meaningful forms of support. So thank you again for spending the time with me. Thank you, Mason. Thank you, Kevin. So thank you again. May all of us gradually learn how to face impermanence within a calmer heart. May we discover clarity within confusion, compassion within suffering, and peace within uncertainty. And may every difficult experience eventually become part of our awakening. So thank you, everyone. See you again in the next sharing. Thank you. Bye.